Chapter 8 of No Clue. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Roger Moline. No Clue by James Hay. Chapter 8. The Man Who Ran Away. Ancestors of the old family from whom Arthur Sloane had purchased this colonial mansion 8 years ago still looked out of their gilded frames on the parlor walls, their high-bred calm undisturbed, their aristocratic eyes unwidened by the chatter and clatter of the strangers within their gates. Hastings noticed that even the mob and mouthing of a coroner's inquest failed to destroy the ancient atmosphere and charm of the great room. He smiled. The pictured grandeur of a bygone age, the brocaded mahogany chairs, the tall French mirrors, all these made an incongruous setting for the harsh machinery of crime inquiry. The detective had completed his second and more detailed search of the guest rooms in time to hear the words and study the face of the last witness on Dr. Garnet's list. That was Eugene Russell. One of life's persimmons, long before frost, Hastings thought, making swift appraisal. A boneless spine, chin like a sheep, brave as a lamb. Russell could not conceal his agitation. In fact, he referred to it. Fear, he explained in a low, husky voice to the coroner and the jury, was not a part of his emotions. His only feeling was sorrow, varied now and then by the embarrassment he felt as a result of the purely personal and very intimate facts which he had to reveal. His one desire was to be frank, he declared, his pale blue eyes roving from place to place, his nervous fingers incessantly playing with his thin, uncertain lips. This mania for truthfulness, he asserted, was natural, in that it offered him the one sure path to freedom and the establishment of his innocence of all connection with the murder of the woman he had loved. He was, he testified, 31 years old, a clerk in a real estate dealer's office, and a native of Washington. Mildred Brace had been employed for a few weeks by the same firm for which he worked, and it was there that he had met her. Although she had refused to marry him on the ground that his salary was inadequate for the needs of two people, she had encouraged his attentions. Sometimes they had quarreled. "Speak up, Mr. Russell," Dr. Garnet directed, "and take your time. Let the jury hear every word you utter." After that, the witness abandoned his attempt to exclude the family portraits from his confidence, but his voice shook. "Conductor Barton is right," he said, responding to the coroner's interrogation. "I did come out on his car, the car that gets to the Sloanehurst stop at 10:30, and I did leave the car at the Ridgecrest stop, a quarter of a mile from here. I was following Miss Brace. I saw her leave her apartment house, the Walman. I followed her to the transfer station at the bridge, and I saw her take the car there. I followed on the next car. I knew where she was going, knew she was going to Sloanehurst." "How did you know that, Mr. Russell?" "I mean, I was certain of it. She had told me Mr. Berne Webster, the lawyer she'd been working for, was out here spending the weekend, and I knew she was coming out to meet him." "Why did she do that?" Mr. Russell displayed pathetic embarrassment and confusion before he answered that. He plucked at his lower lip with spasmodic fingers. His eyes were downcast. He attempted a self-deprecatory smile which ended in an unpleasant grimace. "She wouldn't say. But it was because she was in love with him." "And you were jealous of Mr. Webster?" "Well, yes, sir, that's about it, I guess." "Did Miss Brace tell you she was coming to Sloanehurst?" "No, sir, I suspected it." "And watched her movements?" "Yes, sir." "And followed her?" "Yes." "Why did you think she was in love with Mr. Webster, Mr. Russell? And please give us a direct answer. You can understand the importance of what you're about to say." "I do. I thought so because she had told me that he was in love with her, and because of her grief and anger when he dismissed her from his office. And she did everything to make me think so, except declaring it outright. She did that because she knew I hated to think she was in love with him." "All right, Mr. Russell. Now tell us what happened during your shadowing Miss Brace the night she was killed." "I got off the car at Ridgecrest and walked toward Sloanehurst. It was raining then, pretty hard. I thought she had made an appointment to meet Mr. Webster somewhere in the grounds here. It was 11:15 when I got to the little side gate that opens on the lawn out there on the north side of the house." "How did you know that?" "I looked at my watch then. It's got a luminous dial." "You were then at the gate near where she was found dead?" "Yes. And she was at the gate." "Oh, so you saw her?" "I saw her. When I lifted the latch of the gate, she came toward me. There was a heavy drizzle then. I thought she had been leaning on the fence a few feet away. She whispered, sharp and quick, 'Who's that?' I knew who she was right off. I said, 'Jeanne.' She caught hold of my arm and shook it. She told me, still whispering, if I didn't get away from there, if I didn't go back to town, she'd raise an alarm, accuse me of trying to kill her, or she'd kill me. She pressed something against my cheek. It felt like a knife, although I couldn't see, for the darkness." The witness paused and licked his dry lips. He was breathing fast, and his restless eyes had a hunted look. The people in the room leaned farther toward him, some believing, some doubting him. Hastings thought, "He's scared stiff, but telling the truth, so far." "All right. What next?" asked Dr. Garnet, involuntarily lowering his voice to Russell's tone. "I accused her of having an appointment to meet Webster there. I got mad. I hate to have to tell all this, gentlemen, but I want to tell the truth. I told her she was a fool to run after a man who'd thrown her over. 'It's none of your lookout what I do,' she told me. 'You get away from here, now, this minute. You'll be sorry if you don't.' There was something about her that frightened me, mad as I was. I'd never seen her like that before." "What do you mean?" Garnet urged him. "I thought she would kill me, or somebody else would, and she knew it. I got the idea that she was like a crazy woman, out of her head about Webster, ready to do anything desperate, anything wild. I can't explain it any better than that." "And did you leave her?" "Yes, sir." "At once?" "Practically. A sort of panic got hold of me. I can't explain it, really." Russell, seeking an illuminative phrase, gave vent to a long-drawn, anxious sigh. He appeared to feel no shame for his flight. His fear was that he would not be believed. "Just as she told me a second time to leave her, I thought I heard somebody coming toward us, a slushy, dull sound, like heavy footsteps on the wet grass. Mildred's manner, her voice, had already scared me. When I heard those footsteps, I turned and ran. My heart was in my mouth. I ran out to the road and back toward Washington. I ran as fast as I could. Twice I fell on my hands and knees. I can't tell you exactly how it was, why it was. I just knew something terrible would happen if I stayed there. I never had a feeling like that before. I was more afraid of her than I was of the man coming toward us." Members of the jury pushed back their chairs, were audible with subdued exclamations and long breaths, relieved of the nervous tension to which Russell's story of the encounter at the gate had lifted them.